Meet the most capable CRV Honda has ever dreamed of. The all-new CRV Trail Sport Hybrid. With all-terrain tires and available enhanced traction control, it's built for wherever the day takes you. Heated front seats and a heated steering wheel? Ideal for winter drives and crisp early starts. And with generous cargo space, it's ready for big gear and even bigger getaways. The CRV Trail Sport Hybrid. Learn more at honda.com/CRV.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love, starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Despite the palace's massive library, Dorian is unable to find answers about the source of his magical ability after generations of its dormancy in his family line. Celaena recreates the ancient forest of Rena Goldsmith's legend for Chaol's birthday and confesses her non-compliance with the king's assassination orders, causing Chaol to panic. When Chaol realizes Celaena's plans to leave, he finally crosses the line to show her his feelings, and the pair spend the evening in each other's arms. While Dorian works up the nerve to ask Baba Yellowlegs questions about magic, Nehemia criticizes Celaena for her cowardice due to her unwillingness to free Ilwe. The king of Otterlin informs Chaol of his intent to question Nehemia and makes him swear to keep others away. And though Chaol complies, he wrestles with his own doubt and fear over the king's intentions.
Hey there, we're Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy, your book besties who take the novels you love seriously. This is Jack.
And I'm Amy, and we embrace and respect modern fantasy, romance, and romantasy books written by women. And so it's in our nature to analyze these books as we would any other novel we might have dissected in school.
With our combined 13 years of literary academic training, we use our education to analyze and give voice to reasons why you may love or hate today's popular books.
This is part 1 of this week's episode, where we're discussing chapters 22 through 26 of Sarah J. Maas's second Throne of Glass novel, Crown of Midnight.
Before we dive in, let's talk about Spilt. Spoilers, perspective, interpretation, language, and themes.
Spoilers. While our discussion is about Throne of Glass, important context from the first 3 novels in the series will be discussed without spoiler warnings. That is specifically Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and Heir of Fire. This is not a read-along for anyone who hasn't read at least these 3 books, and you will be spoiled from here on out. So please, take this as your only spoiler warning. For all other spoilers beyond Heir of Fire and other SJM works, we will keep those to the breadcrumbs and broomsticks area at the end of the episode.
Perspective and interpretation. What we discuss in this episode are strictly our personal interpretation of the text. We do not speak for Sarah J. Maas and in no way know her intentions for her books or characters. We also know our listeners have their own personal views and opinions, and we encourage you to share your thoughts with us because every perspective and interpretation is worth exploring.
Language. Even though we try to not swear, we do swear. And so there is explicit language.
I literally have a ring that says fuck on it. So we don't try. Themes. We also discuss some pretty heavy subjects throughout the podcast that can include themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death. While we will do our best to give trigger warnings for the darker themes, we will discuss these topics when they are important to the text. Listener discretion is advised.
As always, we love keeping the conversation going because our listeners are so good at finding things we've overlooked or missed completely. You can share your interpretation of the text with us by posting on social media, tagging us in stories, sending us DMs, or submitting to the form on our website. We also post more exclusive content and host live streams for our Patreon supporters. You can find us at patreon.com/booktalk for book talk. This week, we ask ourselves, if knowledge is power, what are the power dynamics between Celaena, Chaol, and Nehemia?
Themes we'll see in this section include hope and expectations. Chapter 22 starts with Dorian. He is having a total crash out in the library. He is researching his little heart out, and he's just like, who has magic? Do I have magic? Why do I have magic? Will my daddy still love me? And in this moment, he is still thinking about his brother. Quote, hopefully by then he'd figure out how to suppress it and teach Holland to do the same thing. He might not be fond of his brother, but he didn't wish the boy dead. This is very similar to Chaol in, I think, last week's episode, where Chaol was like, God, I hope we are able to save him before he turns out to be a total dick. And, you know, it's kind of nice to see Dorian trying to take on responsibilities to look out for his brother. And I think that we're seeing him really step up into his own self in growth. So I'm seeing hope for Dorian.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's really the first time we've seen him think of someone else in a sense of, I really am looking out for their safety. You know, for Holland, it's questionable. Does he deserve that safety? I don't know, but he is only, 10 years old?
Yeah,
so
he's a child, so I think the answer is yes.
I guess the answer is yes.
Automatically, I'm going to throw this out there. Yes.
So this moment is also a reminder to us as the readers how Dorian is not the king of Otterlin. We see Dorian's humanity in this episode, including that through this thought. And that's important because we're leading up to the king's interrogation of Nehemia, which ultimately is her death. So we have to continue to separate Dorian from the king. Now, as Dorian is looking into his family genealogy to understand how he has magic, he discovers this, quote, several gifted people had married into the bloodline, but their children hadn't been born with the power, no matter what manner of gifts their parents possessed. Was it coincidence or divine will? We get several hints at gods and divine will throughout these chapters, and I only point it out now because I think it's setting up some important stuff for this series, so we'll try to call it out as we see it.
Yeah. In his research, Dorian thinks about Terrasen, and every time he thinks about Terrasen, and then we're going to find out that he actually met Aelin, it always gives me chills, and I always reread the paragraph 5 times over, where I'm like, oh, he doesn't know, and I have to remind myself, they're not real, but I still freak out. At this point, he's thinking about, so Dorian is thinking about how Terrasen never invaded anyone, and he thinks, quote, but they never had. While they'd been gifted, they never once pushed their borders, even when wars came to their doorstep. Live in America, can't relate. Life hurts right now.
Yeah.
I hate it. Anyway, we can see this in Celaena herself, though. These aspects about Terrasen that he's reflecting on, and he's just like, wow, they never misused their power. You know, they really didn't go out seeking anything. It really came to them. These are some strengths and aspects that we can also identify in Celaena as well. The fact that she's never really misused her strength as an assassin or even as a fae.
That's a great point. And what I like about this is that we've only really heard about Terrasen and the royal house and the court through Nehemia. And as we're about to discover, Nehemia lies a lot and withholds a lot of information. So it's important that we get this information also through Dorian, through his own memories, through his own understanding, because he's not a character that's lied to us. And I think SJM does it now for the very reason that Nehemia is about to die.
Yeah.
But it also justifies why Nehemia and her family idolize Terrasen, the royal house, and its court.
Yeah, they make it so mythical, like country that's so powerful that doesn't abuse its power, never once. That's
Who would have known?
That's the most out of pocket fantasy thing that is a part of this.
Yep.
Is a peaceful court.
Yep.
So now we have this moment where Dorian is thinking about Aelin specifically, which again gives me full body chills. I'm just in here kicking my feet, giggling, going, he met Celaena, Aelin. They're the same person. Anyway, let's look at these two quotes. The first one, quote, if the heir of Terrasen, Aelin Galathynius, had lived, would she have become a friend, an ally, his bride? The questions of what if is going to be a reoccurring theme, and I think that's going to be, from here on out, a reoccurring theme, right? What if Chaol had told the truth? What if Celaena had told the truth? What if Nehemia had told the truth? There's a lot of what ifs that are going to happen, and I love this question of, well, what if Aelin had been princess and had carried on? Like, they probably would have, I don't think they would have married, because then that would have to combine kingdoms, but it would have been a potential. They would have met, they would have flirted.
Yeah. Or Dorian could have been her consort and Holland could have inherited the throne. Or Aelin could have been his consort and Aedion could have inherited the throne.
We have a lot of options.
So many options.
But what I think is funny, though, is that in this book and a half at this point, right? Because we're at the halfway point of this book. No one's really thought of wife and bride necessarily. I mean, in the first book, we had Dorian's mom being like, you got to get married. But here he is thinking, would Aelin have been my bride? And then just in a couple chapters, Chaol's going to think about Celaena as his wife. And I'm going to discuss how Celaena doesn't really match the image of wife. And it's the same way where Dorian is saying his bride, his wife, which again, there's no way you can phrase it because it's not like you can't say not have that ownership about it. Yeah. But when you have these two guys that have both historically wanted Celaena and they're both battling with this ownership of do you think she'd marry me? You know?
Yeah, but in a possessive way, right? Will she be my bride? Will she be my wife?
One time this was forever ago, and I'm like, oh, no wonder why I am still single. Sorry, that's depressing. But there was one time I was in Arizona. I was with my friend and she was with her boyfriend and then 5 other girls who were with their boyfriends. And the guys were all introducing the women as oh yeah, that's Stephanie, that's Alex's girl, that's Joe's girl, that's blah blah's girl. And I hate it. And it drove me crazy. And then by the time it came to me, the only single one, I was like, hi, I'm Jack, my own girl. Nice to meet you.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this is one of those moments with Dorian thinking about Aelin Galathynius and could she have been his bride, where I wonder if this quote is still here in this book from a time when SJM planned for Celaena and Dorian to be endgame, because it feels like a breadcrumb that she would plant. Or if that's the case, did she perhaps leave it because it conveys something about Dorian, that he's on the path, but he still has a long way to go before he's over himself and his arrogant ways.
Yep. I really wish I could go and ask her and go line through line of being like, was this original? Who did you have in mind when you were writing this? Because even these chapters, I really question that.
Yep.
Dorian continues to think about Aelin, and he thinks, quote, he met her once, in the days before her kingdom became a charnel house. The memory was hazy, but she'd been a precocious wild child and had set her nasty, brutish older cousin on him in order to teach Dorian a lesson for spilling tea on her dress. Again, it's I'm like, oh my God, he met her and he doesn't remember, and it's so much fun. But also, I feel didn't Celaena threaten Dorian and Chaol at one point in the first book of don't spill anything on my dress or don't get my dress dirty? And it's just such a Celaena thing to do that I feel that was a perfect breadcrumb that SJM set up.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Speaking of setup, it's almost as if I set that up perfectly. Let's talk about setup and the way that it can be effective and efficient. And I will say, I think this is something that SJM does really well. We've noticed this in Akatar, in Crescent City. And that's when SJM has a chapter and she does little clues leading up to a reveal that's going to happen pretty quickly within that same chapter. And I think that it's an effective tool and can be a good writing device when used accordingly. Like, don't use it every time, but this is
Right.
done well. So Dorian is thinking about Chaol and Celaena, and he's just like, I am so over them. I don't care. I don't care at all. And it stirs up some feelings. Quote, and Chaol hadn't tried to suggest that Dorian was welcome either. This is like to his little party that Celaena was planning. What did she plan to do exactly? The temperature in the library dropped, a frozen draft blowing in from a distant corridor. Like we're just ignoring this casual moment of magic happening, but hey, we know SJM loves a drafty corridor. We know a castle loves a good wind. Throw some rose scent in there and it's just a normal wind in a castle, So again, not quite a breadcrumb, but this is a setup and we are about to get immediate payoff for this.
It is important to note that you can't see because you're listening is that specific sentence about the temperature dropping and about the draft in the distant corridor. That is a single sentence that is its own paragraph. So even structurally, visually within the book, SJM is calling out this little setup clue.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So remember when Dorian looked at Celaena, took a breath, and let her go?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when he told Nehemia, I'm done?
Yeah, yeah.
Turns out that's
not.
not how emotions work.
Yeah.
And we continue this quote. He could let go. He had let go. He'd let go. Let go. Books flew from their shelves, dozens upon dozens, bursting into flight. And this time, they slammed into him as he staggered back towards the end of the row. So the payoff is immediate, right? We see that there was hints of magic building up. We have this tension. But again, rather, the payoff is good when you're building tension, when you're building this moment of revelation of holy shit, there's magic and it's actually happening. So I appreciate it. I appreciate when she does this because she does it so well. This scene with Dorian, I feel like is a very well written scene. And I think part of that is because to me, it's like very classical in the sense of writing devices. And another example of that is while he's freaking out, Dorian thinks, quote, he could trust no one. And he actually says that twice in a relatively short amount of time, which sometimes I'd be like, you just repeated yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it's meant to drive a point home. So I think if you wanted to read a scene that, again, my opinion, other people can disagree, is like a solid scene, I think this is a good one.
Yeah, I completely agree. After the books fly off the bookshelf, quote, it took him a few minutes to put them all back, his heart pounding so hard he thought he'd be sick again. Now, again, we're seeing, as we've seen in previous episodes, Dorian's magic makes him sick. And it's not because he's actually physically eaten something that's not good for him. It's because he is so terrified because of the danger that having magic puts him in. So, as we've talked about before, sickness is equivalent to weakness in humanity. And there's some irony in that, the fact that Dorian has magic and uses magic and it makes him sick and weak, but it actually is really strong magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just this weird combination, but it just shows you how terrified he is.
Mm-hmm.
The power within him is animalistic as well, another cause for concern for him, because it's very much like Celaena's primal power as well. There's something about it that he doesn't have control of. Quote, no, there was some force still running through him, begging him to unleash it again, to open himself up. Yeah, he should be worried.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. So we're now with Celaena. And she's getting ready for Chaol's birthday, his horny birthday. And she is all dressed up. And I want to talk about how she's all dressed up. And then I want to talk about how Chaol's dressed up. So first, Celaena, quote, the dress was pale blue, almost white, and encrusted with crystal beading that made the fabric look like the shimmering surface of the sea. It's a very pretty color for her. But I do want to know it's not terracin green. And I'm not saying that just because it's not terracin green doesn't mean that, it doesn't represent her. However, yes, it is. That is, in fact, you could say that it's not reflecting her most honest and true self. because she's not wearing terrasin green. So I think that is something to note because she's still not being her most honest and true self of her own identity. But I want to put a pin in this description of her dress, and I will circle back to that later this chapter or sometime next chapter. I can't remember. Now to look at Chaol's description. Quote, "Not surprisingly, he wore black, but at least it wasn't his uniform. No, his tunic and pants looked to be a fine make, and it seemed like he even run a comb through his hair." I hate it. I hate how easy it is for one.
He used a comb.
I am now embracing my curls and my natural hair. It takes me like 40 fucking minutes to do my hair.
I'm sorry.
Chaol ran a comb through it.
And that's called effort.
And he wore not his uniform, but the same color. Wow. Yeah. Give that man a trophy. Anyway, I will say I do think it's symbolic of their very short-lived relationship. I will argue in this episode that I think Celaena gives more of herself to Chaol than Chaol gives to Celaena. And that's not because Chaol doesn't love her. I actually think Chaol gives her everything he has. It's just that Celaena has more to give. She has more commitments. Anything she's sacrificing will be a significantly bigger sacrifice than what Chaol is willing to do. And immediately, again, not that he's willing to do, he just doesn't have the same sacrifice of a whole ass kingdom like she does.
Right.
And so it's not on him and it's not on her. It just kind of is. And I think that's going to be partly what breaks the relationship. Yes.
I have a thought.
Go ahead.
So her pale blue dress is so pale it's almost white, and he is wearing black. Feels very wedding-esque. And she's walking down the stairs towards him across a hall, very much like walking down the aisle.
Yeah.
I think we're visually supposed to be getting this imagery of a wedding, of them meeting at the altar, which in some ways they kind of are. They are going to consummate a relationship this evening. So I think that was intentional on SJM's part.
Good call. I mean, very much blushing bride. She saves herself for the night of the wedding for her groom. Like, it is very much wedding-esque. So good call. Also, SJM is, as I wrote, good for making us excited. Oh, she does. Good job. Quote, "He watched her every step across the hall, his face unreadable." I had butterflies the entire time reading this. I was just
really?
Oh my God. He's looking at her across the hall. It's so sweet.
Again, bare minimum.
Again, so single. There's also this quick moment, and it's almost like an offhanded comment, but, you know, offhanded comments don't fly here. Quote, "Happy birthday," she said before he could object to her clothes. When I saw that, I was like, babe, why is he objecting to your clothes? Like, why are we bringing this up? Why are you nervous about your clothes? Why is it something that he would automatically say something negative about it? And does she fear that he's going to object to her dressing up in the feminine and looking nice? Or is she fearing that he's going to reject what she's essentially offering him?
Well, when you think of it as if it were a wedding dress, it makes sense why she would be so nervous and, quite frankly, defensive.
Yeah.
I think in this moment, she's afraid of rejection. And I think ultimately, everything that Celaena does comes down to, will they accept me regardless of what I'm hiding from them?
Yeah.
Right? Can they still accept me? And actually, is it even acceptance if they don't know who I am or what this facade disguises?
Yeah.
And the irony, though, is that ultimately she's going to be the one to reject Chaol.
You know, I think the moral of the story is if a woman or a partner, anyone, comes out of the room second of getting ready, the answer should always be like, "Oh my God, you look so nice." Because it's like, clearly you spent some extra time going out, and it needs to be a very enthusiastic yay.
Yes. So Celaena has hired a coach to take her and Chaol to dinner. And when they go outside, she sees that the coach is on time. Quote, She threatened to flay the driver and footman alive if they were late. Now, so cute. It's classic Celaena. But just this quote tells us how high stakes this is for her, how much she wants it to be perfect, how much she wants it to go well. And what we see with Celaena then is that love and violence go hand in hand. Sounds like some other SJM characters we're familiar with.
Yep.
In this case, though, violence is a safety net for Celaena. She's a trained assassin. Violence is in her nature. And so, yes, love, yes, violence, yes, safety. It's all kind of coalescing because of her nerves. And she doesn't know who to be in this moment.
She's like,
she
I'm
gonna
so
be-
feminine and I want to kill you, but you can be both. Never limit yourself.
Celaena doesn't.
Yeah. We now get to the dinner, and Celaena is all in her head. It might not be an Asterian stallion, but she opened this door, stepping aside so he could enter. Celena's super self-conscious here, where she like decorated this entire beautiful patio, and she's just like, I hope that you still like it. I took all this time for you, but I get it. She's saying like, I didn't get you a really expensive horse. And I wonder if there's a part of her that kind of struggles where, like, if she was the princess that she was, actually she's a queen, then she could be able to do so much more for him. She could get him to be free. She could get him all the horses.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who spends her money, who likes nice things, it makes sense that buying gifts is a love language for her that she understands. And she hasn't quite done that here. Yes, she has spent a lot of money on the cook, but it's not something tangible that Chaol is going to be able to use over and over again. So I think it makes sense that why she's self-conscious, because this is not necessarily something someone has done for her.
Yeah. I had a thought that we didn't mention in any past episodes, and I don't want it to be connected to gifts. However, we got a P.O. box.
Can we save that for the end?
No, I think it works out well here. I let the people know here and now. I'm just saying we should add that in general. And
Yes.
Not that you guys need to send us gifts. It's actually meant so that we can send you things and not have our own personal addresses. But like, let's continue.
You can find it on the website.
Yes. Let's get into the description of the dinner. And I have 2 quotes I want to look at here. The first one, quote, "The roof of the apothecary was an enclosed glass greenhouse filled with flowers and potted plants and fruit trees that had been hung with little glittering lights. The whole place had been transformed into a garden of an ancient legend." We know that this is happening in the middle of winter. It feels like winter has been happening for a long time here. I love that Celaena is basically giving Chaol the gift of light. You know, like they're in this greenhouse. They're in this place that shouldn't even exist. It's a place of legend. It's a place that has no place in this world of Rifthold, right? Not underneath the king, not when everything is cold and dead. Now I want to look into the second quote. Quote, "It's the Fey Woman's Garden from Rena Goldsmith's song," he said softly. His golden eyes were bright. We know, and Chaol knows, how much that story and song impacted Celaena. There was a whole thing where Chaol looked at Celaena crying and he was like, yes, I want some of that. And this is Celena's way of giving Chaol that vulnerable part of herself. This is something that she is symbolically giving to Chaol, because also, what was it about that song? It was about, I mean, you're about to go more into the night and everything, but it also was about magic, right? And it was a lot of clues about otherworldly magical things. And she's like trying to give him some. Be like, hey, it's me.
What Jack was alluding to is that the story from Rena Goldsmith's song, we can interpret as very allegorical of Celaena and Chaol. You know, if you recall, the story is about a knight who fell in love with a woman of extreme power, not because of her power, but because he could see her for who she was, and she fell in love with him because he didn't use her the way everybody else did.
Mm-hmm.
So Celaena, having loved that story, having heard it before, having been reminded of it, and now being with the person who reminds her of the night, she's intentionally recreating that scene. It's basically a profession of love without saying the words, I love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Chaol is so impressed with what Celaena has organized for his birthday. He tells her, quote, "It's the greatest gift I've been given in a long time." Now, he doesn't want her to minimize the effort, and he is certainly not minimizing her effort either. And we have to recall that's because he hasn't been cared for in this way for a very, very long time. He sincerely believes those who loved him most, his mother or his brother, have abandoned him. So it is no surprise, and as we see throughout this scene, that he values Celaena, and that value and appreciation continues to grow because how much she sees him and notices him. And yet somehow he still takes it for granted.
I don't think Chaol takes it for granted. I don't think Chaol has the emotional wherewithal or capability to understand, if that makes sense, the gravity of some. Yeah,
That makes sense.
I'm still trying to.
I'm not trying to be anti.
No.
Chaol.
We've proven ourselves here as being a very Chaol forward podcast.
Yes.
And Celaena's been comparing herself quite a bit to Dorian here, and she brings it up again. Quote, "Dorian got you an Asterian stallion." Chaol was staring down at his soup, brows high. "But Dorian doesn't know what my favorite stew is, does he?" He glanced at her and she bit her lip. "How long have you been paying attention?" If knowledge is power, then Celaena's knowledge of Chaol gives her more power over Chaol than Dorian has over Chaol, and more power than Chaol has over Celaena. Because, again, she really knows him.
I think that's a good point, that when we think about it, Dorian can buy as many gifts for Chaol as he wants. Chaol is always going to feel undeserving because Dorian doesn't really know him the way that Celaena does. Celaena, she could do the smallest things, but because she knows him, they are of greater value to Chaol, which I think speaks to the quality of his character.
I just would like to say, I love the message. I love all of this, yay, she knows him. However, if you were to gift me like a really nice Porsche, and then I had a boyfriend that was like, "Hey, I got you a dinner that I didn't even make, that I hired other people to make, but it's really..."
And it's exactly your favorite food.
Yeah. Porsche win.
Yes, but in this situation, I am much richer than your boyfriend.
Porsche wins.
That doesn't mean you don't value the dinner that he gets you.
No, not at all. No, I would value it so much. I would so value it. But let's not pretend I wouldn't value the shit out of that Porsche.
What Celaena is showing Chaol through this dinner is that she pays attention to him. That is something that means a lot to Chaol, who's been abandoned by his family and whose profession is to pay attention to others, not to be seen by others. And that, I think, that's what really hits at the heart of it for Chaol, is that he has spent his whole life watching other people, that it's hard for him to understand being seen by someone else.
I just made a thought. I just had a thought that goes against my joke, which is so unfortunate because I'm so hilarious. But Dorian's gift to Chaol, we immediately see Chaol using it to protect Dorian and the king. So Dorian's gift to Chaol, although is fancy, it's still functional. It's still a gift for his job. So it's still like a, "Hey, I got you a Porsche, but it's your job to drive me around.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you, chauffeur.
I can't believe you got me that Porsche. Just
You would love it.
I would. I really would. I'd be the one driving all of us around. I will say one of the best weeks was when my ex and I switched cars, and he had my car and he had a Porsche and I had his car. It was just like, how's it going? I'm like, fine. He goes, have you been keeping to the speed limit? Do you want to ask questions you don't want to know the answer to?
Plot twist, it's an ad break, but we promise it is still canon.
Did you know my mom got a whole new patio set?
No?
Yeah, and she's supposed to be putting it together on her own.
Oh, she can't do that.
No, that's why I'm getting her to TaskRabbit.
I know your mom and stepdad would really want to do it themselves, but honestly, they should be enjoying retirement and just get TaskRabbit.
That's why I told them to get started by going to TaskRabbit.com or to download the app. They get to search by the best tasker for their job based on cost, skill set, availability, and past client reviews.
They can even schedule their tasker as early as the same day if they're super in a rush.
Taskers have assembled over 3.4 million pieces of furniture, done 700,000 home repairs, completed 1.5 million moves, and more.
Plus, with TaskRabbit's happiness pledge, if you're not satisfied, they'll work to make it right.
With the amount of books I keep buying, I actually have my tasker coming next week to help me set up a new set of bookcases.
Be like Jack and her mom and tackle your to-do list today and get 15% off your first task at TaskRabbit.com or on the TaskRabbit app using the promo code BookTalk.
That's promo code BookTalk, BookTalk, at TaskRabbit.com for 15% off your task.
TaskRabbit. Book trusted help for home tasks.
Amy, yesterday when I went to that Argentinian restaurant, I ordered my empanadas in Spanish, and the owner of the restaurant was surprised with how good my Spanish was.
Oh, nice. You've been practicing.
I've been practicing with Babbel.
Like Jack, you can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babbel's conversation-based technique that quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world, like ordering empanadas.
I got 3. That's tres. Babbel is handcrafted by over 200 language experts. Babbel's lessons are voiced by real native speakers and built with science-backed cognitive tools like spaced repetition and interactive features to fit any learning style.
Babbel's tips and tools for learning a new language are approachable and accessible. It's like having a private tutor in your pocket.
One of my favorite ways of learning Spanish has been the Babbel games that they've provided. I think I'm having fun when in actuality it's science-based and spelling reinforcement.
With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. So get talking with Babbel.
I want you to learn another language. That's why we're teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/booktalk.
Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/booktalk, spelled BABBEL.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK.
Babbel.com/booktalk. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Growing up, my parents were obsessive about the chore charts and the stickers that we got to use to track our chores and what each completed chore was worth in money.
And now with Acorns Early, you can apply that to today's kids with modern technology. It's genius. Acorns Early is a smart debit card and money app that grows kids' money skills as they grow up.
Start with the in-app chores tracker and teach your kids the value of $1.
Then let your kids set up their own savings goals, start building healthy money habits early.
Make them work for that PS5.
Absolutely.
Kids can spend what they've earned with their own customizable debit card, giving them the extra sense of independence.
Plus, with Acorns Early, spending limits and real-time spending notifications, parents always stay in control.
This is definitely something I would use if I had kids because I love nothing more than teaching hard work for reward.
This is what's going to happen when I have kids. You're going to be teaching my kids with Acorns Early.
That's exactly right.
Ready to teach your kids the smart way to earn, save, and spend? Get your first month on us when you head to acornsearly.com/booktalk or download the Acorns Early app.
That's 1 month free when you sign up at acornsearly.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK.
Acorn's Early Card is issued by Community Federal Savings Bank, member FDIC, pursuant to license by MasterCard International. Free trial for new subscribers only. Subscription fee starting from $5 per month unless canceled. Terms apply at acorns.com/early terms.
This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. It's starting to get into hot weather here in California, and both Jack and I are weaklings when it comes to the sun. One of the things we always make sure we do is hydrate, but especially with electrolytes.
I think it's a well-known fact amongst our friends that I drink Liquid IV daily. I try to drink 3 liters of water a day, and my liter that has my Liquid IV is always my favorite one, and I save it for my midday water because it's my happiest water.
Happiest water.
It is my happiest water. It brings me the most joy because it's the most tasty.
I'm so excited to try the new Arctic raspberry flavor. I love raspberry, and I love the idea of it being icy cold.
Plus, Liquid IV has sugar-free solution powders as well by LIV Hydroscience for smart hydration.
Just 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. It has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, and is always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. Squeeze the most out of your summer with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more.
Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code BookTalk at checkout.
That's 20% off your first order with code BookTalk, BOOKTALK, at liquidiv.com.
So, still in this roof, still in this moment, I personally would like to look at one of my favorite moments of symbolism here. So Chaol and Celaena are on the roof and they're looking out at the view. Quote, she stared towards the distant spot where the Avery met the ocean, Chaol beside her, leaning against the iron railing. Now, I want to remind everyone from what we said, I think in like the first episode, that the Avery is a place for Celaena's sins to be cleansed and brought into the ocean, because that's where Celaena put the heads of the people that she pretended to kill into the sewer that went into the Avery, and she looked at it going into the ocean. And we talked about the ocean being a place that it cleansed her of her sins.
Mm-hmm.
And what did we say earlier is that she was wearing a dress that was similar to the sea. I think that it is a nice reminder of cleansing of sins, which is a great symbolic moment that she's about to tell Chaol the truth of what she's been doing.
I think that's a really good point. I'm really glad you bring that up, because there is something very, very important about her telling the truth in this moment, specifically because it's outside of the glass castle, the glass palace, and therefore separate from his identity as captain of the guard. Because we know how Chaol is when he's in captain of the guard headspace.
Yeah.
He doesn't particularly treat Celaena the way she should be treated.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also significance in the fact that Celaena is telling Chaol the truth after she's proven that she sees him for who he is. She also wants to be seen for who she is, ultimately.
Yep. That's a good point. I'm happy you think that it's a good point, because when you were taking your notes and you got to that chapter, you said nothing while you sat next to me.
I was really distracted by the documentary we were watching.
Fair. And I was like, oh, what chapter are you on? You're like 24. I'm like, oh, so we're just going to breeze past that then? Celaena reflects on Chaol and how his parents did not appreciate him. Quote, that the boy they'd thrown out of their lives had become the sort of man that kings and queens could only dream of having served in their courts. Remember when Celaena thought about Chaol when she was like, wow, he is so worthy, almost worthy enough that if Terrasen really existed, then, you know, maybe he should go there and belongs there, if only Terrasen existed.
Oh.
Ugh. At a certain point, though, Chaol's going to stop inspiring her, and then she's going to want to keep him for herself.
Mm-hmm,
And that's not Chaol's fault. But at this moment, he is still inspiring her.
He is. And, you know, she would know that kings and queens would dream of having Chaol serve them because she is, in fact, a queen.
She probably thinks, like, He would be a super duper consort. He would be.
Or general. Yeah. Or general. Or anything in her court.
I mean, if she married him and she was queen, he'd be consort.
I know. But the consort just doesn't have like a role the way a general does. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Consort general. Yeah.
General consort.
Just in general.
When Celaena tells Chaol the truth, she cannot look at him, and she knows inwardly that she is a coward, and she uses that word, coward, when she chooses to look at the Avery instead. And I think it's important that we see Celaena call herself a coward in this irrelevant situation before she talks to Nehemia. Celaena knows that she, yes, in fact, is a coward about things she cares about. Chaol being one of them, and telling the truth being one of them.
Oh, good point. I did not think of that.
Take a sip.
Take a sip for all of our listeners, too. Everyone stay hydrated. Again, we're the only podcast that cares about your hydration.
It is the summer. It is getting warmer. And you know what?
Or it's the winter.
For us, it's the summer. But in the winter,
we have
in the
Australian
winter,
listeners.
I know. All I'm saying is we are physically in summer.
I will say some of our Australian listeners had some notes about us calling it spring and summer book club.
That's fair. You know what? I was being exclusionary. That was not inclusive. What do we call it then?
I don't know. I honestly had no answer. I was like, good point. Can't promise I'll change.
Yeah, I think it just has to be 2026 book club part 1.
No.
2026 book
we need
club
to be
part 2.
more clever than that. Australian listeners, if you don't want us to be calling it spring and summer book club, and we need a way of differentiating the 2 book clubs the 2 to 3 book clubs we have in a year, you guys come up and tell us something. You come tell us something clever. Yeah.
It could be like Jupiter season. Do something astrology. We're in Jupiter season right now.
All right. I think it's a great idea.
I'm trying to find something universal here.
It's world part 1. Yeah. Yeah. No, we're putting this on them. They don't want seasons. Then tell us something else, please. We now enter chapter 23, and Celaena tells Chaol about the truth, and he freaks out, which I think is funny because she ends the previous chapter calling herself a coward, because this is Chaol's thoughts. Quote, because there was no possible way that she could be that brash, that foolish and insane and idealistic and brave. Brave being the key word. This would be such a me thing of like being like, I'm ignoring everything you're saying and I am going in onto that brave there. But I think it's because right now Chaol understands honor. He understands that with honor, a lot of times you need bravery. And this confession is going to rock him and his own personal moral code.
Yes, we're going to see a lot of conflict in Chaol. But it is funny. This is one of those moments where you see how personality, experience bring different interpretation. Because when I read that sentence, my note was, oh, so he never thought she could be brave.
One of us wants to pick a fight. The other one only hears the one positive thing in there.
One's an optimist, one's a pessimist. I wonder which one is which.
Selective hearing.
So Chaol is super conflicted, as Jack pointed out. And we can tell that difference just between the words he says versus the thoughts he has. So Chaol is literally yelling at her, have you lost your senses completely? But at the same time, thinking about her in her spectacular dress that he wants to take off. So despite Chaol yelling and being in this state of panic and fear, we still see his attraction for Celaena, which is important because they get it on tonight.
Yeah, he's like, God, I'm so worried and mad at you, but you're being so honorable and I'm so horny for that.
Yeah.
Celaena challenges him when Chaol calls the targets traitors, right? He's coming up with everything he can of what the king has been telling him, right? And Celaena says, quote, traitors? for refusing to grovel before a conqueror, for sheltering escaped slaves trying to get home, for daring to believe in a world that's better than this godforsaken place. Like, and again, that's kind of hard to argue with. That's kind of hard for someone to be like, oh, you're right. Maybe they're not traitors. And that's a moral code that Chaol can get on board with.
Right. She is so smart to appeal to that fundamental part of his character. And quite frankly, she's saying the things about the king that Chaol has never uttered before, that he's never really acknowledged. And she's just like, oh no, we're not skirting around this one.
Yeah. No, not at all. And Celaena continues to push, quote, I will not be his butcher. And he hadn't want her to. From the second she'd been crowned champion, he'd been sick at the thought of her doing what the king had commanded she do. But this, you swore an oath to him. Chaol's so confused because he's like, okay, yes, I don't want you to go and like kill strangers, but an oath, Celaena, you swore an oath. Does that mean nothing for you? And that's because it's his own personal code, and what's right is all over the place. It does not make sense, right? Okay, so you're not killing people. That's a good thing, but you swore an oath and that's a bad thing. And it is the first time I feel like Baby Boy is having some very complex thoughts and is being challenged for this. He is very black and white. That has been very much a Chaol thing. And especially when you think that the idea of there is good, there is bad, that should be a very clear, moral to stand by, but that's not always the case here. But again, it comes back to the fact that Chaol is struggling with how Celaena swore an oath, and it's the oath that matters more that she broke. And I want to say that the reason why the oath matters more to Chaol is because later on, after they have sex, Chaol is going to be awake, staring at her body, and he's going to swear oath after oath. He says that to himself, oath after oath. So again, oaths mean a lot to Chaol.
Which is interesting. And I am going to go on a little bit of a tangent to bring up Dorian, because early in the last chapter, Dorian says he can't trust anyone. Chaol is his best friend. Chaol has sworn an oath to protect Dorian. But Dorian doesn't trust Chaol enough with the truth about his magical ability because Chaol is so black and white.
And Chaol swore an oath to the king.
Yes,
not
to the
Dorian.
crown.
Yeah.
To the crown. And so oaths do mean a lot, so much so that not even Dorian, his best friend, trusts Chaol. So it's meaningful that Celaena is willing to take this jump. And I don't blame her for being nervous, because although this is exactly what Chaol wanted, Chaol's honor and his definition of honor is the default, is the only correct answer. And so what we're seeing right now is his definition of honor in tension and combating against Celaena's actions of honor, right? I don't know that Chaol would ever think to describe Celaena as honorable by his pure definition, but he can't deny that she's honorable if he looks at her actions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because at the end of the day, he is still stuck on her title of assassin. But the moment that her title as Aelin Galathinius comes into play, we don't really get much time with him in that, with him knowing that information. But suddenly, honor is on the table, right?
Yep.
Because a queen can be honorable.
Yep.
Celaena at this moment says again that she wants to be a normal girl. This is a sentiment that she's expressed. I didn't realize how many times she would express this in this book, but she's done it quite a bit.
Yep.
Quote, live my life. I guess I started mid-sentence. She wants to live my life, I suppose. Live it the way I want to. For once, learn how to be a normal girl. So we know that the desire to be a normal girl is not, there's so much meaning to that with Celaena, because there's a destiny, there's an entire kingdom, there is a responsibility, and it is not necessarily to just be like, I just want to go live in a farm with you and start a little mom and pop shop and make soap and sell it to people at the farmer's market. Like, that's not what she's craving. What she's craving is not destiny.
Exactly. Look, we were on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Because Celaena is doing everything to ignore the call to action, the instructions that Elena has given her, the things Nehemia wants her to do.
Mm-hmm.
Being normal makes all of those things impossible.
Yeah.
And so naturally, Celaena wants to be a normal girl.
Yep. I think the desire for normal, though, is what is going to take her away from feeling like Chaol inspires me and he could be the thing that makes Harrison great again, to I want to run away with him. I want to hide. So that desire, that specific thing, is the one that changes it as well for their relationship. The idea of for on Chaol's side, though, the idea of losing Celaena, that's what shakes him up. And that's what gets him thinking about things differently. Quote, "Perhaps my duties aren't what I expected them to be. The king kept things from him. There were so many secrets, and perhaps he was a little more than a puppet, part of the illusion that he was starting to see through." Wow, revelations left and right. Seeing Celaena step up and be brave and be honorable is what's making him find the courage to be brave and honorable as well. And between Chaol and Dorian this episode, there's just so much breakthrough. There's just so much, but it's not enough, unfortunately.
It isn't enough because they're so unaccustomed to seeing the truth for what it is.
Yeah.
Chaol still managed to assume the worst of Celaena, even though he didn't want to, in terms of her killing the targets that the king sent her to assassinate. Chaol has been willfully ignorant when it comes to the king and has chosen to shut out the things he doesn't understand or he doesn't like. It's telling to me that it's only when there's the threat of losing Celaena that Chaol starts to see truth.
Yeah.
Which mirrors the end of the novel when she leaves for Wendelin.
Yeah. They finally fucking kiss. I feel so cheated of how short their time together really is.
Yep.
I feel so cheated.
Yep.
Quote, "The kiss obliterated her. It was like coming home or being born or suddenly finding an entire half of herself that had been missing. If not mate, why mate shape?"
One thing I ask myself often in this episode is this just the folly of youth? Is this just what it means to be 18 years old?
Yeah. I will say, I mean, I think about the one day, hopefully have kids, hopefully have a daughter, and just being like, hey, baby girl, you're going to think you're in love with your first. You're going, and you probably will be, but that obsession that comes with youth, that comes with being shocked that someone, like just that first time of everything, it's very overwhelming.
Yep.
To be young and dumb and listening to so many depressing songs. When you can be older and wiser and still listen to depressing songs. We are now in Celaena's point of view, and her takeaway from all of this is, quote, "He would give everything up to go with her." So at this point, Chaol's like, yeah, I'm in, bro. I'll do this with you. You go, I go. You jump, I jump. A la Titanic. And she needs to know that he's willing to go with her. That's the moment where everything changes for her. But again, him giving everything up is not the same as her giving everything up. This is not an equal opportunity of giving everything up. She would give up a country, of helping Ilwe, of helping a number of people that aren't even in her own country. He is giving up disappointing, or the king might want to kill him, but he's giving up like not as much as her. And so when Celaena's like, oh my God, he's willing to give things up too, I don't think she's able to make that connection of saying it's not the same thing, which is important to make, because It's then her assuming it means the same thing to him.
Yep.
I think Celaena not making this connection or realizing how disproportionate it is that their sacrifices are different will be a part of what plays into their demise.
I agree.
Because if Chaol is willing to sacrifice everything in her mind, then she should too. And that's where it goes into, right? So what she hears is Chaol saying, yeah, I'll give everything up. And she's like, well, this is an equal household. I too will give everything up. And that's not the case. Like, you're now moving away from him being an inspiration to him being the reason why you're ditching everything. We're building up to Celaena and Chaol having sex. And this is a reminder that this is Celaena's first time having sex. Quote, she moaned and dragged him through the greenhouse, down the stairs and into the carriage, waiting outside. This language is very intentional from SJM's part. She is showing that Celaena is very much in control. She's the one who's dragging him. She's the one who's pulling him. She'll be the one to bring him into her room. As it should be, right? Like,
Right.
she should be the one in control. But I just like when writing makes little points and you don't have to spend a big to-do about Celaena being like, I am finally in control for once in my life. Although we do get a little bit of that, but you don't have to make a big to-do. Because Celaena makes the choice about having sex, and there is a very specific moment when she's like, yep, this is about to happen. Quote, she had waited once, waited with Sam, and then it had been too late. But now there was no doubt, no shred of fear or uncertainty, as if every moment between her and Chaol had been a step in a dance that had led to this threshold. Very much in control. Sex is power. Choice is power. But I also want to point out, threshold. We said this in every single analysis we've done with SJM, but typically in writing, thresholds are very significant. It's usually a way to signal the reader that change is coming. There's a big shift that's about to happen. So of course, Celaena would make this choice at the threshold.
Right. And this is also something about the threshold is like, once you're past the threshold, you can't go backwards.
Yeah.
You've metaphorically crossed onto the other side and there's no turning back, which is super important because I do wonder if Nehemia's death had happened before Celaena and Chaol had sex, would Celaena have reacted the way she reacted?
No.
I think she would have been quicker to forgive Chaol.
Yeah.
In a way that now that she's past the threshold, she will not be able to because she has given herself over completely. We also get this lovely referral back to this dance that Chaol and Celaena have been engaged in since the start of Throne of Glass. Their first fight during training was called a dance. We had the dance at the ball that just happened an episode or two, I can't remember, ago. And then we have the third act of this dance. And once again, if we tie dance to swordplay, which Celaena often does, we're seeing the culmination of art and violence and sex all going hand in hand. And so I'm not surprised someone's going to get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what happens, right? Emotions are high. And I don't know why I had, because she was talking about like regretting it. And it's like she regrets having waited. I will say, haven't regretted who I've slept with. There are guys I regret not having slept with. So
as Celaena feels as well here.
Not because they died. But
that's fair.
So take that, audience, that knowledge, and may you do with it as you will. Someone out there tonight being like, you know what? I will sleep with him or her. I mean, good job. They finally have sex. Quote, and then there was only them and skin against skin. And when they reached that moment when there was nothing more between them at all, Celaena kissed Chaol deeply and gave him everything she had. All things considered, very well written, very YA, good job. But also,
give us some detail.
Don't make me scour fan fiction. Actually, don't make me scour fan fiction. Just send me the links on our DMs. So Celaena and Chaol are now in that morning afterglow. His hands grazed lower down her back, not even stumbling over the scar tissue. He'd kiss every scar on her back, on her entire body last night. Again, we're seeing this moment of Celaena giving herself to Chaol. Everything, scars and all. Not that Chaol's not giving himself to her. He just does not have the same thing to give. He doesn't have the scars to give. He has one murder under his belt. And it was to self-defense. And she's like, hey, would you like a year of slavery? That's another thing that she can give. So she has way more trauma and history than she can even grasp at this moment. And I don't want to just put it on her. It's more than Chaol can grasp at this moment. I don't think he understands how much her giving herself to him is such a big deal. Even if he doesn't know the whole history of everything, even what he does know is significantly disproportionate.
I think there's also this added layer of she has more practice with vulnerability. She's had more experience being vulnerable with other people, with being disappointed and recovering from that disappointment. And I think because of that, that also makes her more willing to be vulnerable and to take that chance. And that's something she knows how to do in a way that Chaol does not.
Yep. In my opinion, there are moments that shows their disjointedness. Celaena tells Chaol, quote, honestly, I'm surprised you're not strutting about, boasting to everyone. I certainly would be if I tumbled me. Does your love for yourself know no bounds? Absolutely none. As she should. And as he should, right? Everyone should just be like, woohoo, just got laid. The just got laid parade, as I like to call it. And he should be agreeing, but I feel like that this is a moment that definitely shows their different levels of personality. And I understand teasing someone. I understand that wanting to joke around and keep things light and, oh, Celaena's so full of herself. But for me personally, there's something about putting someone's confidence down that is extremely not acceptable. And I think these are just little clues of Chaol and Celaena not quite being on the same level here.
I see what you're saying. I also had to wonder for a moment if this is just how they've always bantered when they're most comfortable.
Yes.
And so and I'm not, it doesn't necessarily disprove your point. It is just the purest form of them. And at their purest form of them and their relationship, there is still friction.
Yeah. I mean, all of it is in agreement of yes. This is where they just don't quite line up because this is very much always them. He does tease her about her being full of herself or just eating so much, or do you just always keep eating? Do you always boast? And each time I never liked it.
Yeah.
So just another thing of they don't quite match. The more we get from Celaena, the more we see how much she really does care about Chaol. Quote, it had somehow felt it had always been Chaol, even from the beginning, even before they met. To me, this is a sign that she cares for Chaol much more than she did for Sam. Not that she didn't care for Sam, but again, this is right now to her, Chaol is endgame. This is how do we leave? We are exit strategy plan from here. And this is her caring about him more than she has anyone else in her life at this moment. And it shows again how much she's willing to give her all to him.
This is again one of those moments where I have to ask myself, is this left over from SJM intending them to be endgame? Or is it just because Celaena's just lost her virginity and she's 18 years old? And that's just what the folly of youth looks like. And I don't know the answer. I think it can be both. But there's going to be some things that continue to kind of strike at the meat feeling of this relationship. And it uses language that SJM uses for all her other mates in her other books. And so we have to call it out that there was a point in time when SJM thought Chaol and Celaena were going to be together, and that she chose to leave that language in even when she knew that they weren't going to end up together.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, sorry, going back to the whole folly of youth, like she is only 18 and it's so easy when you're like, this is the person that she's loved more than anyone else in her life.
Mm-hmm.
She's 18.
Yeah.
When do romantic feelings really start? Let's say 12. And would you ever say a 12-year-old really knows what it feels like to deeply love someone romantically? You know what I mean? So versus someone saying that and you've lived a life of experience and you know what it feels like to have cared and loved like people. It's very overwhelming when you're like, I've never felt these emotions. And it's like, well, you never had your brain fully developed. So
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there are multiple times throughout their sexual encounters, both in the evening and in the morning, where Celaena sees the hunger in Chaol's eyes when he looks at her. Now, this is a very common use of the word hungry when describing sexual tension. Quote, "The grin Chaol gave her was hungry and wicked enough that she shrieked when he yanked her under the blankets." It's cute, but if we talk about it from a power dynamics point of view, sexual hunger, while it is hot, it also has the connotation of Chaol wanting to devour Celaena, which therefore has the connotation of wanting power over Celaena, which is kind of true. They're not, as much as he wants to accept that they're equals in ways, there's something about him that also can't accept that.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to part 1 of this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy. Stick around for part 2, which airs on Thursday.
We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. We would also love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a future mini episode or a Patreon exclusive episode.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk. Bye.
Bye. Growing up, my parents were obsessive about the chore charts and the stickers that we got to use to track our chores and what each completed chore was worth in money.
And now with Acorns Early, you can apply that to today's kids with modern technology. It's genius. Acorns Early is a smart debit card and money app that grows kids' money skills as they grow up.
Start with the in-app chores tracker and teach your kids the value of $1.
Then let your kids set up their own savings goals, start building healthy money habits early.
Make them work for that PS5.
Absolutely.
Kids can spend what they've earned with their own customizable debit card, giving them the extra sense of independence.
Plus, with Acorns Early, spending limits, and real-time spending notifications, parents always stay in control.
This is definitely something I would use if I had kids because I love nothing more than teaching hard work for reward.
This is what's going to happen when I have kids. You're going to be teaching my kids with Acorns Early.
That's exactly right.
Ready to teach your kids the smart way to earn, save, and spend? Get your first month on us when you head to acornsearly.com/booktalk or download the Acorns Early app.
That's 1 month free when you sign up at acornsearly.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK.
Acorns Early Card is issued by Community Federal Savings Bank, member FDIC, pursuant to license by MasterCard International. Free trial for new subscribers only. Subscription fee starting from $5 per month unless canceled. Terms apply at acorns.com/early terms.
This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. It's starting to get into hot weather here in California, and both Jack and I are weaklings when it comes to the sun. One of the things we always make sure we do is hydrate, but especially with electrolytes.
I think it's a well-known fact amongst our friends that I drink Liquid IV daily. I try to drink 3 liters of water a day, and my liter that has my Liquid IV is always my favorite one, and I save it for my midday water because it's my happiest water.
Happiest water.
It is my happiest water. It brings me the most joy because it's the most tasty.
I'm so excited to try the new Arctic raspberry flavor. I love raspberry, and I love the idea of it being icy cold.
Plus, Liquid IV has sugar-free solution powders as well by LIV Hydroscience for smart hydration.
Just 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. It has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, and is always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. Squeeze the most out of your summer with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more.
Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code BookTalk at checkout.
That's 20% off your first order with code BookTalk, BOOKTALK, at liquidiv.com.
The search for truth never ends. Introducing June's Journey, a hidden object mobile game with a captivating story. Connect with friends, explore the Roaring 20s, and enjoy thrilling activities and challenges while supporting environmental causes. After 7 years, the adventure continues with our immersive travels feature. Explore distant cultures and engage in exciting experiences. There's always something new to discover. Are you ready? Download June's Journey now on Android or iOS.
Paradise is back.
It's finally here.
In a new location, Costa Rica. There will be adventure, drama, and romance.
All gas, no brakes. That's my vibe.
Ready to find some love.
But it wouldn't be paradise without surprises along the way.
These kids need to learn.
That's right. Your favorite Golden alums are crashing the beach.
We bring in a party, baby.
Bachelor in Paradise. New Mondays at 8/7 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.